there guys, it's Crystal. So today I want to do the perfect book challenge. And this is when you take 10 prompts and you match each prompt up with an author to build your perfect book. And I first saw this on Elliot Books' channel and it looked really fun. So let's get started. There are 10 prompts. And they are prose, world building, magic system, characters, plot, action and battle, humor, romance, hero, and villain. Okay, so for prose, I picked Anna Bright, who wrote the Beholder series. And I picked her because I just feel like her writing is so beautiful. It's so like vivid and without like being like super flowery, without trying too hard. It's just like effortlessly gorgeous. And I just loved it so much. And my perfect book would of course just have like effortlessly beautiful writing. Okay, so for world building, I actually picked Christopher Paolini, and I was going to pick Leigh Bardugo for this, but I wanted to pick a different author for each prompt because that's what Elliot Books did, and I thought it would be like a fun extra challenge and help me think outside the box a little bit more so we don't have, you know, a Mona Awad and Leigh Bardugo for like everything, you know? But I picked Christopher Paolini for this because I don't read a lot of sci-fi, and when I was reading To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, it was just very accessible. I found it very easy to understand. I thought the world building was fantastic. I felt like he built like a fully realized futuristic version of the world that felt very real and grounded while still being like fun and like exciting at the same time. So I just feel like if I had a team of authors building my perfect book, that he would be great for world building because I feel like he would make sure that it was accessible for a lot of different kinds of readers. And I also just feel like he would do a really good job and it would be very detailed and layered. Okay, so for the magic system, I picked Neil Gaiman. Now, I've not read a lot of Neil Gaiman. I basically read some graphic novels and Coraline. But when we're talking about my perfect book, I like a magic system that's more light and more like grounded in the real world. And I just feel like Neil Gaiman would do a really good job with that. I went through his masterclass and I had a masterclass description last year. And I just feel like, you know, that he has a really good grasp on a lot of different ways to handle this. And I would trust him to handle the magic system and my perfect book in a way that it would be like, you know, on the lighter side, easy to understand, but like really like maybe fairy tale like and like dark at the same time. Okay, so for characters, I picked Raquel Mead, and that's just because when I was reading Vampire Academy, I felt like most of the characters had like very distinct personalities, and specifically, I really loved what she did with Lissa, the vampire princess, and Lissa's cousin. I can't even think of that girl's name, but I just thought the characterization for those two characters were really good, especially for Lissa because like she's not just like your typical like pretty blonde princess. She had like other stuff going on, and I just thought it was really well done, and I thought Raquel Mead like showed all these different layers to people's characters like in an interesting way and also like in a very like efficient way. I just thought it was really good. I really liked Rose and I really liked Dimitri, and I even liked that little snotty girl, and I just feel like even the snotty characters like had very distinct personalities. And we want that in our perfect book. We want every single character to feel different and to have their own like personalities and backstories, and they don't feel like somebody just inserted them into the story because they wanted a mean girl or they wanted this or they wanted the love interest or whatever. They feel like real people with like actual backgrounds that are like sharing this world together, and the world feels real as well. I just feel like Raquel Mead is really good at characterization. Okay, so for plot, I picked Christina Henry. And I picked Christina Henry because when I read Near to Bone earlier this year, it is like almost perfect. Like it was dark and it was disturbing and it was beautiful and it was just so good. And I'm very interested in a lot of her other books, and I just feel like from at least a plot perspective, I can confidently say that I think she has very interesting ideas and like very interesting plots. And yeah, I would love in my perfect book for her to like be the plot builder, because I just think she would just have like this exciting, atmospheric, dark, beautiful, and disturbing, creepy story for me. Okay, so for action and battle, I picked Leigh Bardugo. And the reason why is I've said this a few times, I'm not really like the biggest fan of like really long fight scenes. And I feel like Leigh Bardugo handles action in a way that works really well for me. And so like when I felt like when I was reading the Shadow and Bone trilogy that when the action scenes came up, like I didn't have to dread them because not only were they exciting and easy to follow and I knew what was going on, but also they didn't last very long. And I just thought she did a really good job of like writing fight scenes that are not confusing, that are also interesting and tense and long enough to be satisfying, but not so long like, you know, I'm exhausted. I think she's really good at that. And I would like her to handle the fight scenes in my perfect book. So for humor, I picked Mona Awad, and that's because in Mona Awad's books, she has this very dark and unapologetic kind of humor. I absolutely love it. I live for it, and I just think that that would be like her humor and everybody else's other stuff. It would just be so good. And I find that kind of dark, dry humor really funny and entertaining. So yeah. All right. So for the romance, I picked Naomi Novik, and it's not because I thought the romance in Uprooted was just like so amazing. It's more like I like the way the romance built in the book. I wasn't like the biggest fan of the love interest, like from a personality perspective. I like the character in general. Anyway, I picked Naomi Novik for this because I thought the relationship between, what was that guy's name? The dragon and the girl with the long name, the main character. Like, I felt like the romance built very naturally. It was a nice, slow, realistic build. And I just thought she handled it really well, like in a way that was satisfying and not over the top and not insta-lovey and nuanced. And I thought it was sweet and beautiful. And I don't like, you know, like really gushy romance. I am a much bigger fan of a nice, like, slow realization when the characters are realizing they have feelings for each other and, like, they start developing warm, fuzzy feelings, but they're, like, not there immediately. I just find that more relatable. So I would trust her to handle the romance in my perfect book. I probably should have picked the romance author, but this book came to mind when I saw this prompt. So, Naomi Novik. And I also picked her because I don't want the romance to be like in the foreground, to be like right in front of your face. I like a nice romantic subplot, you know, something that like builds naturally and my version of realistically in the background while the rest of the plot plays out. And it like doesn't get in the way and it's like an asset to the story. Yeah. So for hero, I picked Gregory Mcguire. And I've read 2 books by him, Hidden Sea and A Wild Winter Swan, and I've read half of Wicked. And I feel like a lot of his main characters are very, I'm just gonna say non-perfect and weird. And I find them charming. I find his characters very charming. And I think he would be a really good person to be in charge of the hero of my perfect book, because it would be somebody, you know, who is interesting, but still a little relatable to me personally at the same time. And they would also be, you know, like layered and they would have like natural layers, like things that come out as the story goes on, and you learn more things about them, and you know, their characterization progresses in a very, you know, natural way based on their experiences and their past. And I just think he is really good at writing protagonists. And I like that his main characters are not perfect and they don't do everything right, and they just seem very real. Like, they feel like real people, but like they're interesting people. I feel like I'm doing a good job of explaining it, but yes, I like how naturally flawed and weird his characters are, and they're not like, you know, goody two shoes, you know, and they're not caricatures or flat. So for the last prompt for villain, I picked Caroline Kepnes, author of You. I picked her because the main character in You is Joe, and Joe is kind of a creepy stalker, but at the same time, he's also very likable and sweet, which is a really weird thing to say about somebody who is crazy. So I would love for her to be in charge of the villain in my perfect book, because I just feel like they would be very multi-dimensional. So one thing I love is a good villain. And I like villains to like be the hero of their own stories. I like villains who are like doing terrible things for what they think is the right reason. And I don't like when the villain is like, I want to burn the world down just to watch it burn. I'm like, that doesn't work for me. You know, as well as a villain who is like, you know, layered. I feel like I keep saying that word. I like a multi-dimensional layered character. And I feel like Joe is a perfect example of that. You know, he's dark and like tortured, but he's also like, you know, like sweet and like, you know, he helps people and and I kind of feel like you understand why he's like that. I like when an author can like show, you know, like why the villain is like villaining so hard, you know? I just like to see that. It makes it more compelling and it makes it more interesting. It makes the stakes higher. I like to feel like that conflict between the hero and the villain, where like you understand where the villain is coming from, you know, but you also know that they need to be stopped at the same time. Like, I just watched Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings, and I just thought the dad in that movie, I just found his character very compelling, because, like, he cared about his children, and he wanted his wife back. It was just so sad. Okay. And I just felt like I really understood like what was driving him and like why he was making the decisions that he was making. And so it's like there was like this, you want him to like win, but you know that the way he's trying to win, like, you know, he needs to be stopped. And it was just so good, you know? So I just really like that. And I think Caroline Kepnes is great at that. So to recap, I'm going to recap because I think Elliott Books did this in her video. So for prose, we're going with Anna Bright, and for world building, Christopher Paolini. Magic system, Neil Gaiman. Characters, Raquel Mead. Plot, Christina Henry. Action and battle, Lee Bardugo. Humor, Mona Awad. Romance, Naomi Novik. Hero, Gregory Mcguire. And villain, Caroline Kepnes. So that's all for this video. Happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate Thanksgiving, and feel free to let me know what you pick for each of these prompts in the comments below. And yeah, I will see you guys next week. And yeah, I hope you're having a good month so far, and I hope you have a great week. Bye.